guys, Rich here from the RCNetwork.com, and today we're taking a look at the Killerbody Toyota Land Cruiser. Now this is their LC70 1/10 scale hardbody kit that is intended for a couple of chassis out there, either the axial SCX10 or SCX10-2 or the newer version of the RC 4-wheel drive Trailfinder 2, the long wheelbase. Now this is a highly detailed kit, and it took me about 3 hours to get it to this point. Now I haven't put on all of the different bells and whistles or some of the decals that comes in the kit because I'm kind of at a turning point where I don't know how I want to either wrap or paint this vehicle. Being a true scale hardbody, it does have a traditional deep bed that you'd find in a true 1-to-1 LC70. With that, you will have to make some modifications to your existing SCX10 or SCX10-2 chassis. That's the one that I used in my case to make this body fit. Mounting the Killerbody LC70 hardbody is pretty easy with a couple of different mounting options from Killerbody. Now this one right here is intended for the Trailfinder 2 long wheelbase, but the one that I used was the one for the SCX10 or SCX10-2, which actually fit on there pretty perfectly. Comes with the stainless steel brackets, both front and rear, and all the hardware to get this thing mounted up. With my axial SCX10-2 kit version, I did have to make several modifications to get the bed and the body to fit correctly. First off, I had to delete the shock hoops and go with more of a front or lay down style shock. These are some Proline Pro Spec buggy front shocks. You can go with a cantilever design that actually mounts the shock up here right underneath the bed rail. There is a kit for that from Dinky RC. Another item I did have to notate was I had to completely mirror the transmission and motor. This was actually completely flipped the opposite way, where the spur gear was back here towards the rear, and that was just hitting the cab a little bit too much, so I did have to completely mirror that. It is pretty much a plug and play type of situation. You do have to unbolt everything, flip the transmission and motor around, mount the ESC now on the far side over here, and you do have to hack away at the battery box, and not too much of an issue because I plan on running these smaller sized packs in this rig. The next decision you'll have to make is tire size. Now originally I had slotted for the build these Proline 1.9 Hyraxes. These are definitely a very nice tire these days, and I did want to give these a chance. But with that, I couldn't really get the tire fitment under the wheel wells, especially with the front being a very narrow wheel well with those fender flares. Now this is the stock BFG tire with the kit version of the axial SCX10-2, which fit pretty decently but still had lots of rubbing issues. Now finally, these are the Pitbull PBXs. These are pretty much the smallest 1.9 inch tire on the market that has decent tread design. These fit on quite nicely, and you were able to slam that body all the way down to the bed rails and still get some pretty good clearance on the wheel wells. Some of the tools needed to assemble the LC70 kit from Killerbody is a good pair of body shears, a good sharp hobby knife, a couple of screwdrivers. Now I found that the most useful one was almost like a jeweler's type of Phillips or cross-threaded screwdriver, a very fine tip in fact. This one's called a 0.5, PH1 0.5, and then finally just a regular kind of micro or mini screwdriver here. This one has multiple different tips, both cross and flathead, but this size I found to be the best. You'll also need some CA glue or just some regular super glue. I just use this brand from Loctite. It's kind of like a gel, so it doesn't actually dry immediately. It gives you some time to place the item. The owner's manual was pretty well laid out, and I didn't find any mistakes or issues with the instruction manual. However, I do recommend to definitely read ahead before you start the step to not miss any particular items that they do illustrate in the instructions. There's a lot of things that use kind of like an international type of language, so definitely be aware of that. There's specific items in here where there's different arrows and things that show you just kind of how to do things, so pay attention when you are assembling and definitely read ahead. Also make note of the different sizes of screws. It's down to the almost micro millimeters. Like this one right here is a 2.3 millimeter by 6 millimeter screw, 2.3 by 5. It really gets very, very tiny, teeny screws throughout this build. So now that we got all of that out of the way, now it's time to take a look at the LC70. Well, I've got to say, if you're looking for a scale body, there's no other way to go, especially if you're looking for that kind of old school Toyota pickup look that kind of has like a modern new flair to it. The front grille assembly on the LC70 is quite impressive with all of the different light bezels that are pre-painted for you. There's spots for LEDs not only on the headlights but the fog lamps and the turn signals. You have different badging in here, including the official Toyota licensed badge. You do have decals that include the Land Cruiser decal. I mean, it is just a cool front end of this vehicle with all of the chrome inserts and everything else that makes this a special LC70. Although the hood and the doors are in separate pieces, they are not functional. So you can probably modify this to make them functional, but as a kit and as far as the assembly instructions, they are bolted down. The details go on for days, including the included snorkel right here. I have yet to mount many of the body mounted details like gas caps, handles, mirrors, windshield wipers. It's all included. I'm kind of waiting to decide the paint scheme and or wrap I may put on this vehicle. Looking into the cab of the LC70, you'll notice I chose a right-hand drive just to be different from the United States that typically has left-hand drive. It comes with both dashboards, which is pretty nice, and also includes a rear view mirror for a special scale feature. The bed of the LC70 is corrugated, just like you would find in a real LC70. It does come with double gas caps, both here at the side pillar and then all the way back here on the very rear of the fender. The details on the tailgate are quite impressive, including the tiny little handles right here, the lower mounted lights that are on the rear kind of valence down here at the bottom, and of course the Toyota logo that is easily stickered with the decals included. The tailgate does have an opening feature where you can actually leave it down, or for security while out on the trail, you can simply close it and then with some added screws, screw it completely shut so it doesn't accidentally open out on the trail. Some of the parts left over from the build include a left-hand dashboard. I chose the right-hand version, including the decals to make it look real. You do have a whole sticker sheet here that I've yet to use only because I'm waiting for the paint and or body wrap to be complete, but it includes some actual looking chrome details like the LX V6 four-wheel drive Land Cruiser. Pretty cool little design right there. Some other decals, including a Land Cruiser, you do have the tiny little washer ports that get a blacked out feature, which is pretty nice. Lots of hardware that's still left over to mount mostly the included side mirrors. Now these things are pretty cool. They actually come with metal brackets that bolt to the truck, and then these plastic mirrors get a nice little chrome decal that goes onto it. Now this chrome decal has not only a sticker side, but then also a plastic side that peels off to reveal that brilliant chrome finish. So not just a cheap decal that goes onto there. Parts that are still left on the parts tree are some painted side markers. They just get CA glued onto the front fenders. You have a couple more badges and emblems and handles. We have some gas caps right up here at the very top. We have some door handles, other little bits and pieces that still get mounted on in a chrome fashion. And finally, we have the other side mirror. We also have the windshield wipers. If I had to come up with a couple of negatives on the LC70 Land Cruiser body, I'd have to say that about three things are negatives. First off, the decal sheet wasn't pre-cut. It appeared to be pre-cut, but if you tried to peel it, it would start to tear and rip. It wasn't completely scored on the lines, which made it pretty tough for that Toyota logo because I had to hand cut each one of those, and those O's were definitely tough. Next, the body mounts that were not included. Would have been nice if they were included. Now, they were an $8 item that you had to pick up separately. Being that this was about a $160 body kit, it'd be nice that since this was only intended for 2 different chassis, to go ahead and include those body mounts. They didn't have to be stainless steel. They could be made of plastic, but it'd be nice if they were included in such a premium kit. Lastly, the time to assemble this took me about 3 hours, give or take, to get to this point. Now, there's still some other preparation that has to be done with paint and or body wrap, and then you still have to put on all the finishing touches, including some of the emblems, the side mirrors, and whatnot. And there are literally over 100 screws in this kit so far. Now for the positives. You can't get a more scale body on the market, period. This thing is definitely a step above anything that is Lexan or painted or anything that appears to be scale. This is the ultimate in a off-the-shelf scale kit. Well guys, that is my full review of the Killerbody LC70 Land Cruiser, intended for the SCX-10-2, SCX-10, and the RC 4-wheel drive Trailfinder 2 long wheelbase. This is a pretty cool kit. I can't wait to get this thing fully mounted, completely painted and or body wrapped, depending on which route I go, and get all of those last scale details onto this kit. Well guys, if you have any comments or questions about this item, feel free to post it on down below. And as always, thumbs up and subscribe. That's it for now guys, over and out.